Now, in August, Bindi Irwin, the daughter of the late Steve Irwin, who, of course, was also known as the crocodile hunter, revealed that she and her husband Chandler are expecting their first child. And this week, she shared a picture on Instagram of the baby's bedroom. You can see she's had an artist paint an Australian zoo mural complete with snakes and crocodiles, which some are suggesting is a tribute to her dad. So, you know, we want to talk about how important it is to keep a grandparent's memory alive. How do you do that with your kids?
You know, with my mum, I've got pictures in the home and I always like just bring her into the conversation. So maybe it's something like my son will do with his eyes. I'll be like, oh, your grandma, you look like your grandma. Or food that we'll cook, you know, it will remind me, oh, this is grandma's favourite song. And that's how I really involved them and let them know, you know, how she came here. She was a migrant, came here from Jamaica, because I feel like in our family tree, she's, you know, she's a head.
She's the matriarch.
She's the matriarch.
What was her name?
Lilith.
Lilith.
You know,
Lilith.
Some would say Lilith, and she'd be like, it's Lilith. And she was very, honestly, she was very funny. I feel like that's where I get it from, you know, the eye movement, the expression. So usually when I'm around family, when I talk or I go into my Jamaican accent, everyone will either laugh or start to tear up because it's like, you so remind us of mum.
Yeah.
And I just really involve her in the family, and my kids are very aware of dates. And another thing I do, even last night I was a little bit emotional, I saw a show, and it just reminded me of my mum, and I was a little bit tearful, but I embrace that with the kids. Are you all right, mum? Yeah, I just miss my mum. And let them know, because I think sometimes we've shone away from that.
Yeah.
And letting them know how important she is to me.
Because your son never met her, did he?
He did. Unfortunately, I was 9 months pregnant when my mum died with him, but he's got her eyes and everything. So you would think he met her, was looked after her, was fed by her, because we're just so connected.
She was, you know, she taught you what you know.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
He is almost being fed by you.
Yeah.
I mean, Gloria, how do you keep Karen's memory alive with her boys?
Well, that, of course, is very important to me. I mean, I've got hundreds of photographs in frames all over the house. And I've got grandparents, of course, in there as well. But we have a saying in our household that people never die if they live on the lips of the living. And so we talk about Karen a great deal. And that's very special to me because they were only 10 and 7 when Karen died. And I want to keep those memories alive. And I want to mark the occasions through the year, like Mother's Day, say, coming up on Sunday. And that's really important. And I like to tell them what she was like at university and how wild she was at times. She was a lovely, wild Irish girl. And they love hearing stories about her. Funny enough, they don't ask me very much about her, but I think that's because I talk to them all the time. Yeah. So I leave the saying with you that people never die if they live on the lips of the living. That's important.
Oh, I love that. It's been really nice. We're looking at lots of pictures of Karen and her boys. Just so beautiful.
Yeah. And when they come into the house, by the way, they scour those pictures all the time. Yeah. And they say, well, that's me when I was in Australia, or that's me, you know. And it's fantastic. Yeah. And then, of course, with Karen's Foundation, we help people all over the country with cancer. And the boys see that Karen was loved, and that's important.
Yeah. Photos are so important, I think, because they just put you right there, don't they? And I did a lot of videoing. So when the kids were young, I was like the first person I knew that had a video camera. And I would literally, like in the days when it was like ITN turning up, you know, like this with a big VHS in the side. And they'd be like, oh, Mum, it's so embarrassing. But they love it now because, and, you know, and Gary's mum is no longer with us. His dad died years and years ago, but they see her on film. What about you? Well, so they've got 2 grandparents who are alive and they've got 2 grandparents who are no longer here. But one thing, very similarly to everyone, really, there's lots of pictures up of my mum around, for example, and I try and talk about her as much as possible. And with the kids, we talk about mummy's mum and we talk about daddy's dad and explain they may no longer be here, but they were here and these are things they used to do, for example. But with their granddad, so my dad, who's in Jamaica at the moment, so he's doing pandemic in the Caribbean. They talk to him a lot on video calls and they're aware that he's not in the same country as them. And so I talk to them about Jamaica and Alfie has been to Jamaica before. And what we're going to get is a map for his walls so he can visually see where Jamaica is compared to where he lives now. Because it's not for us, for me anyway, it's not just about the memory of their grandparents, it's also making sure they're aware of where mummy's family comes from and that they travelled across the sea to move to the UK. And I think it's important for him to have an understanding of who
who he is, and the fact that both sides of the family aren't all from here.
It's lovely. It's about building legacy, isn't it? And letting them know their legacy and how important it is to you. I think that is an absolutely beautiful idea. I might have to nick that one.
I'll charge you for that particular idea.
It is lovely. And it's about building legacy and keeping those memories.
And when I think about the video stuff, Jane, so many of us sort of do it on our phones.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily look back at it or keep it. And the way you do it is just beautiful.
Even my older daughter said that to me the other day. She's, you know, well, both of the older ones are very computer and tech savvy. Yeah. And they said, actually, because you're just constantly doing little 10-second clips and you end up not really doing anything with it. And they both said, we're going to get a video because then you actually record things properly.
And we do need to keep these memories and not just, you know, keep them in the cloud and never use them again.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.